So approaching this piece, first of all, I would know my scales backwards and forwards. And in this particular key, we're in C major, so know the fact that on the G string we're going to be doing high twos for B naturals. But then on the D string, A string, and E string, we're all doing low twos because we have F naturals, we have C naturals, and we have G naturals. So just be aware. And then try and make sure when you practice this that we're making everything in a very smooth and flowing style. So from the beginning, just be careful of those F naturals. And to really make that introduction, the first 4 bars come out, we have to start with a solid mezzo forte, but then diminuendo into measure 5. So it takes a lot of finesse with the bow, but just practice carefully to get that diminuendo in there. Measure 5 going on, some of the things that you have to be careful of are fifths. Whenever you have a leap of a fifth, our strings are tuned in fifths. So if you have a leap of a fifth with something like a G on the D string to a C on the G string, you have to make sure that you place your finger down in between the strings just to make things a little bit easier for yourself. So anticipate, know that you're coming to a G then a C, so set your finger so it's on both strings. For instance, here's measure 5. Sorry. So if you notice, I have my fingers. That third finger is on both strings. So you want to make sure that you're anticipating those leaps so we don't have something like this, where there's a break in the sound, or when you lift that we hear an open string in between. So just be aware that you have to try and get those fingers set so that there is no break in the sound. The measure 9, this third phrase, we have to make sure that we build the crescendo. And just be aware whenever you do have crescendos, it doesn't mean automatically get louder. It actually means start soft enough so that you can gradually build it up. So we hear the building, and that's really what a crescendo is. It's building it up. So don't get too loud too soon. Because it goes to the A. That's where we should be leading to. Measure 13, going on, just this part, we have to be very careful of the rests and what we do during the rest, because a lot of these are up bows and it can come out as an up bow accent, which we want to stay away from. So here's measure 13. Now if you do just that and you keep your bow on the string, so 16 and then 18, you're going to run out of bow. So during those rests, you have to sneak back up. You have to make sure that you're using plenty of up bows, but not to let them get too loud. So think stronger on the down bows, lighter on the up bows, so that you can get back to the frog. So again, 13. That's going to take some work, making sure that when we do these quick lifts, they're reverse retakes, so you're not coming to the frog necessarily. You're going to come closer to the frog, but then go up bow. So. What you'll see some kids do is they'll play and then they'll abruptly stop, or they'll crash land, and you'll hear these accents. So when you retake, make sure you lift and then set. So you're always starting from the string. Set. Okay, so that'll take some work. Then measure 21. This is not the melody, which is the reason why it's marked down to piano. But at the same time, it's good counter movement, a good counterpoint, so bring out the moving scale, but then always be aware of where the melody is. So when you're in your orchestra class, you can listen, and it's most likely in the violas or cellos. So 21, nice and soft. And then mezzo piano for measure 25. And then 29, because you have a pickup, this pickup you really should retake. Same thing that we were doing before. So don't stay here at the tip, because that's going to be very abrupt. We want those pickups to be subtle, very nice, and then land on the downbeats. Downbeats have to be more important. Same thing, don't get stuck at the tip. Retake. More in the middle of the bow since we have to go up. And then we get to 37, which is forte. And believe it or not, this is such a pretty line, but it is not the melody. So be aware, cellos, violas, somebody else in the orchestra does have the melody at this point. You guys, first violins, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's moving, but it can't be too loud. So play it forte, but always be aware where the melody is. All right, so here at 37, we have it's gorgeous. But you have to practice it very carefully. It's a lot of low twos and it's a lot of low ones. And I'm sure you've been working on those finger patterns or finger exercises. Make sure you keep that thumb set so you know where that low one goes and then how to bring it right back up to B natural, or F natural is nice and low. So measure 37, practice it slow. Try and keep your fingers down as much as possible. So when you go from note to make things as legato as possible, if you are lifting, there's going to be a break in the sound. So connecting from measure 37 to 38, you have to have the third finger stay down as you go across to the C natural. And then there's that fifth again, C to G. So try and set it so that your finger just rocks over, but don't lift, or have your finger already planted on both strings. But really keep that legato nice and smooth, all these eighth notes. Measure 40 into 41. Be very careful. You have this G that returns. So you have when you go to the E in measure 41, don't lift your third finger. You're coming right back to that same G. So try and keep the fingers down as much as you can. So starting from 41. Now, accents. Accents in a very legato style, really, it just means to emphasize. So in some pieces, when we get to like Fantasia for strings, those accents mean to be very aggressive and very marked. But in this case, this accent just means to emphasize. So the way we're going to emphasize this with vibrato. And first violins, unfortunately, that happens to be on a fourth finger, which gets very tough. So you have to really practice that vibrato, make it beautiful as you can. And remember that accents just mean to emphasize. So emphasize the best you can. And then 44, it's a beautiful line. Try and make a lot with that diminuendo. So emphasize the first note of those eighth notes and then back away. So, and just be aware of your volume or your dynamic level, that it's always getting softer as you play. So when you get to this section, just again be aware of the low ones on the E string, but then bring them right back up on the A string so that it's not a B flat. And then keep that legato section as smooth as you can. Again, be aware of those rests. If you have to retake, so 45. Retake. Now, big sound. And that one you don't necessarily have to retake on in measure 50 just because it's going to a forte. Just be aware that you don't want the pickup to be stronger than the downbeat. Measure 53 is really just about sustaining the sound and then saving your bow so that you don't run out. So oftentimes I'll see kids get to a dotted half note and they'll play 1, 2, 3. Right? And then we lose all the intensity. So save on those long tones. You can think of doing a little bit of a crescendo within so it goes somewhere, but then relax as you get to the tail end of those long tones. Same thing, 57. And definitely retake here because that's 6 beats down and then 1 beat up. And then I would retake on these quarter rests just so that you're not getting stuck at the tip, and then set your bow every time. Measure, I'll do the bottom part first. So the VC, always bottom parts are way more important than the top parts. So if you're on bottom, you can play out a little bit stronger. It really helps out the top part to stay in tune. So bottom part, with the pickups to 69. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. So with this one, I kind of goofed it a bit. I want you to stay away from the open strings as much as possible. But definitely be thinking about your tone overall, and then don't let it start to get more more martelé. Keep it very legato. Connect the bow strokes as much as you can. So here, at the end, we come to an allargando right before measure 83. Allargando means to broaden out. So we are definitely going to slow it down. I'm going to go from cut time into 4/4 time here. And then be aware that we have those accents. Again, the accents can't be too harsh, although we're broadening out, so we can emphasize them just maybe a little bit more since it's the end. And then stay truly fortissimo. In fact, it says fortissimo, so triple F. And then for the top part, back to 69, same sort of thing. You're definitely going to have to practice this because it gets all the way up to 5th position. And know your 3rd position pretty well. Here, when you get to measure 77, you have to be in 3rd position. I would recommend staying. So have your first finger for A on the E string, 2nd finger for B. 3rd finger is going to touch the B because that's a half step. And then when you go from 79 to the E, instead of doing open E and shifting back down, I want you to just take your 2nd finger across to the A string. Make sure we're keeping 2 and 3 touching. So 2 goes across, 3 touches for F, 4 for G, and then you're still in 3rd position. So first finger for A, B, low, C natural, 1, and then we can shift back to the E string, or stay on the E string and go back to 1st position for the G. And the reason why we do that is because it's marked fortissimo, and the loudest G you can do would be there in 1st position, as opposed to A string just won't cut it. So come back to 1st position, and then from there, you have to practice the shift. Going from G to C. Anytime you shift, you should always be thinking about your 1st finger. So if you're going to a C with your 3rd finger, that means your 1st finger is on the A. So practice going from G to A in 1st position, 2 to 3, and then practice that shift. Do it with a slur. And then once you get really good at that, find that C. And then you can do it as written. In measure 83, you have to be careful that you do these shiftings. So you're in 3rd position, and you're staying on the same note, C, 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 but that last C, we're going to shift to 5th position and move that 1st finger. So make sure we're listening. And I would just practice that over and over until you get it correct. And then feel really comfortable making that shift to 5th position. And then D is a whole step, and whole step E. And if you're getting up there and you're not quite sure, just check with an open E. And then it's also your harmonic. And then that'll pretty much take care of it. So I'll play this whole thing from 69 with the pickups for the top part. So, just in playing that, there's a couple things. Be very careful about the string crossings. We've talked about those before. One of those perfect fifths, making sure the fingers stay down as much as possible. Think ahead. And then, again, save through those long tones and develop those crescendos. So you want to make sure you don't speed your bow through. Save. Enjoy the moment. Right, and then so on and so on. So I hope this was helpful. Again, with this particular piece, the notes are not terribly challenging. You just got to be aware of the key signature. Top parts have to get up into the stratosphere, up to fifth position. But again, with studying the first violin part, do study both parts. Be able to play the bottom part, be able to play the top part. Feel comfortable playing both parts. And then when it comes to the seating, you won't feel thrown into the wolves or whatever maybe. And you are comfortable with both parts. So if you have to play the bottom part, you'll be there to support and really bring out the tune. Whereas the top part, if you didn't practice that and you're given the top part assignment, then you're going to be cramming at the very end. So best of luck with this one. Again, if you need any help, go ahead and go on to Google Classroom, and good luck.